Here we have multiple questions being rendered based on the type of the question. We are choosing to render one component or render another component. All right, so let's further implement some of these. So let's look at the true-false. Now the true-false question right now is being implemented here. What we'd like to be able to do is that the information about the quiz, right, lives in the parent component, right? If you remember, in the quiz component, we have access to the question variable, right, as we're iterating, and it has information, has all the information, right? Like in the server, we have the actual question, right? The actual question, right? We have the correct answer. We have obviously the type. For the multiple choice, we have the original question. We also have the choices, right, from where you can choose the the right answer. Right? So all that information is available in this question variable, right? And we need to be able to pass it down, right, to each one of the components so that they can then decide how to render it, with radio buttons and whatnot. Yes. So to do that, we're going to declare a variable in each one of these, a state variable called question, right, which is going to initialize as an empty object, right? As well on the other one, which is this one, the multiple choice, we're going to declare here a state variable that is going to wants to receive an instance, right, of that question. So how do we pass it down? So the way you pass it down is, in HTML is, the way you configure HTML elements is that you always use these attribute name value pairs, right? So basically, we like to be able to pass the variable question. So we're going to use that notation of the attribute. So to do this, the way you do this is that you declare the variable which we are going to inject or send to as input, right, to the to this new HTML, and this is going to be equal to the variable question that we are that we're iterating over, right? This is going to be the same for both, for the true false and for the multiple choice. We're going to pass this question. Now it's complaining, saying that that question hasn't been declared in the element, in the component, it hasn't been declared as an input. So let's do that now. If you go in here, for this to work, we need to declare this. Not, we need to declare and say, hey, this is no regular state variable, right? We're not going to just change it and the state here in the component. Instead, this is a variable that is being passed from the outside world, right? It has an outer scope, and we're being passed a reference to that variable. So the way to do that is that we use the annotation input. We say that this is an input attribute, right, that is bound to that attribute that is declared in the element. We're going to do the same thing for the multiple choice component. We're going to declare this as an input. If we go back to the question, you'll notice that it no longer has that squiggly line. Okay. To verify that this is working, right, we can go into our HTML, and then instead of having this this dummy content, what we can do, right, is replace it with an actual data that we know is already in the question. We know that there's a title in there, right? Each question has a title, right? If we go to the true false, we can do the same thing, right? In the HTML, we can replace that with the title, and if we render here, notice that indeed we are rendering the title of each one of the questions. All right.